What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another book haul video on the King Crusoe YouTube channel. This time for August, covering all of the acquisitions for July. Now, compared to the April and May book haul, this one's not quite that large, but it is a fair bit larger than the one that I did last month, which only had like 5 items on it. This has a little bit more to it, and several of the items are quite hefty. If you looked at the thumbnail, yeah, that was very heavy to try to hold, and that was like half of what I got. So, needless to say, there's some pretty cool stuff in the haul this time around, and since I have nothing else really to say in this intro, let's just get right into it. And by the way, if you hear any thumping in the background, it's because my brother's chopping wood outside at the moment, so it shouldn't be a problem. And sorry that I've kind of put myself into a new position where there's a little bit more glare on my glasses. I wish it wasn't that way, but I'm getting something to be able to put over the window to kind of minimize that, hopefully. So, anyway, let's get right into the items that I was gifted this month. Item number 1 being the book titled We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. I have no clue if I'm pronouncing any of that correctly, but I hope so. This one came from fellow booktuber Words in Time, and I highly recommend that you check out his channel for some very good quality sci-fi content, probably some of the best sci-fi dedicated channel on the platform. Now, I know that We, as a book, inspired and influenced most of, if not pretty much all of the dystopian fiction that we have come to know and most of us come to love as of today. This includes, but obviously is not limited to, books like 1984 by George Orwell, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Those are probably the best known ones. And I didn't realize this book was quite so short, but I actually kind of like that about it. Something that I enjoyed about Brave New World, even though I didn't love that book, was that it was really short and limited and just kind of got to the point of the themes and the ideas that it was trying to make and what the problems of some of those things in society could lead to. But otherwise, it didn't stretch itself out too much or too thin and wasn't, bloated or anything like that. This seems like it's going to be a similar thing. And it's funny that I mentioned Brave New World, especially because I'm pretty sure this was like the influence for Brave New World. And that short length just will make it easier to get around to and theoretically enjoy. Yeah, it's only like 200 or less pages. So that's actually pretty nice. Item number 2 is, I can't believe I'm saying this right now, Flush Boy by Stephen Graham Jones. For the second time on these book haul videos, thanks but also no thanks to Mr. Sir Patrick, man, the absolute crazy lunatic who recommends everything that I don't otherwise have any interest in. So this is one of his stereotypical books that he just recommends to everybody for what seems like a joke, but he's genuinely completely serious. He's gifted or gotten people to buy this book several times just in the last couple months, including getting himself banned from another server for saying "enjoy Flush Boy" to the owner of the server, and them not realizing that it wasn't a joke or that it wasn't an insult directed towards them in like a malicious manner, that he was talking about a book that Patrick gifted him. So some pretty funny things going on with this. As a result of being gifted this, I guess I kind of obligated to read this someday now, even though Stephen Graham Jones seems to be a relatively mixed reception, not necessarily controversial, but something along those lines as an author, where several people like absolutely love a lot of the stuff, and then other people just absolutely hate it, with standout examples being The Only Good Indians, and then the recent My Heart is a Chainsaw, Heart Like a Chainsaw, something along those lines. Some books that he wrote that people either loved or hated. So, but everybody who I know who has read this or even started it says that it's unironically actually good, at least as far as they've gotten. So, yeah, I guess I'll have to put it onto the TBR at some point in time. Obviously, no promises yet, Patrick. Don't bother me about it. But at least it's short, so I'll give it that. And now, starting with the items that I purchased for myself. The first one of those being A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens. I don't know why I got tongue-tied in the middle of that last name. Anyways, apparently for the monthly classics read-along that we've been doing in the Discord server for Mike's book reviews, we were planning to do, only one read along or one book a month, one classic every month. But this month for August, Picture of Dorian Gray is really short. That's the one that got voted. But enough people insisted that we read A Tale of Two Cities in August that we just kind of decided to do both because they're both pretty short and, it gives, I guess, an opportunity to just read more classics, which is not something that I'm going to argue with. So I had to buy this one to be able to follow along with that second part. I'm still sad that I wasn't confident enough to be able to fit Count of Monte Cristo into my reading schedule last month and in June. With how much I actually did end up reading in July, I think I could have fit Monte Cristo in there instead of like 3 or 4 other books that I read. But either way, I'll absolutely get around to that one someday. But let's get back to the topic of this section. This book, the copy of this book is strangely tall for how thin it is. It's kind of strange. Just looking at the pages, it's yeah, these are very, very tall copy of the book. There's a lot of words on each page, but there's not too many pages. In the actual book itself, before you get to the end notes and all that kind of stuff. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there's only 278 pages of the book, so rather limited in size, similar to Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm excited for this to be my first read for Charles Dickens as well, I should point out, because although I know it's in some ways a little bit more mixed reception from his other major novels because it's different in very notable ways, at least so far as I've heard, it makes it the things that I've heard described that make A Tale of Two Cities different from his other novels is stuff that I think I'll really enjoy. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to enjoy this book a lot. Now, item number 4 is something completely different from classics or Flush Boy or anything like that. Here we have Tides of War by Stephen Pressfield, the author who did Gates of Fire, which I've heard absolutely obscene amounts of praise for. A lot of people who just really love that book. Everybody who I know who's read Gates of Fire absolutely loves it, and I do really want to read that one too as a result because it sounds super interesting. Seems like it's right up my alley. But a friend on Discord, Lockie, wanted to read Tides of War sometime this summer. He was looking sometime for August, maybe. And this book, similar to Gates of Fire, seems really interesting, it's right up my alley as well. A lot of Pressfield stuff seems like it's something that I'd really enjoy personally. So I did pick this up to be able to read in August and kind of be able to discuss with him and maybe one other person, or who knows how many more are going to pick it up to be able to read. But I'm excited for this because, like I said, a novel about the Peloponnesian War, all of that kind of stuff in I don't know how appropriate it is to call certain parts of history ancient history versus what isn't ancient history, but all of the history regards to this kind of material, stuff that I just absolutely love, I'm super into, so I'm really excited to get to this. And then somewhat on a similar note, item number 5 on the list is Mythology by Edith Hamilton. I'm a total mythology junkie, especially in regards to Roman and Greek realms of mythology, thanks to Rick Riordan for that, sparking a phrased obsession when I was in 5th or 6th grade, and just kind of having a love and passion for that kind of thing even to this day that I'm sort of revitalizing by reading a lot of Rick Riordan's stuff all over again. But I was looking relatively recent into being able to actually read some more of the actual myths, some more in-depth have more in-depth knowledge of what those are about and the actual stories of them and looking at kind of different perspectives of that. And since this book is a really highly regarded, renowned collection of a lot of the Greek and Roman material, I'm sort of familiar with some of the stories, but I'm really wanting to be able to go in deeper into some of them. And I know some people who have read or are reading it and seem to think it's pretty high quality. So I'm sure that I'll love this, and this is a really nice addition. Unfortunately, there's a little tear here that was part of it when it shipped to me, so That's a little bit disappointing, but otherwise this edition is super, super nice. Like really high quality material, including, let's see if I can find a few plates of really nice art in the middle as well. So I'm sure I'll really love this, and I'm glad that I picked it up. And then also in a similar vein, but not in terms of topic, but in terms of quality, I picked up, let's see if it's right here. There we go. I couldn't find it on the notes. It is The War of Kings. That's not the title. The Way of Kings Leatherbound by Brandon Sanderson. This 2-volume collection with the nice box and artwork there on the front. Ooh, that's a nice angle to get on there. And then the actual books. I love the artwork on these. They're super high quality, and this actually came a fair bit earlier than I was expecting for them to ship. Holy cow, that cracking. Um, yeah, really nice stuff. Really great quality artwork. And like the map and all the stuff on the inside. I actually ordered this as a pre-order on BackerKit after backing the 4 Secret Projects Kickstarter for Brandon. I opted into this on BackerKit since it's one of the only leatherbounds for Brandon Sanderson that I don't actually own yet. I did miss the Warbreaker restock. Somehow that happened shortly after some of the stuff started shipping out, but that's the last one of the leatherbounds for now that I still need to get. There's the nice original cover art that's really epic, and then the exclusive art that's made in that same vein. Really nice stuff. I'm very happy with this. It's very beautiful, and I look forward to hopefully pretty soon being able to pick up the Warbreaker leatherbound as well. Now we go to item number 7 on the list, being another hefty collection of stuff. Oh, let's get it over here. And that being the complete works and companion guide to William Shakespeare, a feature from my 13th great uncle. And no, that's not a joke. Shakespeare's sister is actually my 11th great grandmother. So I do have a minuscule amount of relation to him, even if it's not technically by blood, since he's an uncle and not like a grandfather or something like that. But either way, that's pretty dope. Now, I've read one of his major poems. I think he has like 5 or 6 of the poems, and I've read one of those at one point in time. I probably read a few sonnets, and then of course I've gone over a couple of the plays with um, adaptations in English class in high school. But of course, otherwise there's no real introduction to be made for Shakespeare. The font in this book is really small, like surprisingly small, but what do you expect when you have a collection of 30 something plays amongst other material? You're going to have a lot of stuff in there. Plus, there's just a ton of art. Like, there's artwork like this, usually multiple pieces, or not usually, but occasionally multiple pieces on like every single page. It's really neat stuff. And I'm excited to be able to go over more Shakespeare over the course of my life. This has pretty much all of it. Like I said, it's complete works. And although I'm sure I'll need to go through some study guides for some of the plays and whatnot, I do want to get through all of Shakespeare's material over the course of my life. That's kind of like a bucket list thing in terms of reading. And alongside, obviously, that collection with the actual plays is a sort of companion piece for it. It's not like a study guide for all of it, but there's stuff that goes through Shakespeare's life and some other artwork in that regard. I actually have no reference for what any of that stuff is for. But then the back has a sort of appendix type thing, like Who's Who in Shakespeare is what it's called. So it has like I guess, an explanation for all of the different characters that appear in different Shakespeare plays. So that's kind of cool as well. And then item number 8, which I'm just going to get into right here, is on a similar note, but it's because it is also William Shakespeare's The Two Noble Kinsmen. For whatever reason, when you get complete works of Shakespeare, this is the only one of his plays that he wrote/co-wrote, because he wrote it with John Fletcher, which he co-wrote several of the plays that are actually in this collection as well, like King Henry VIII was co-written with Fletcher. This is the only one of the plays that for some reason isn't often included in these complete works editions for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. I think it might have something to do with the fact that it was published, posthumously, like by a few decades, and the fact that it deals with subject matter or themes that were done basically the same but better in one of his previous plays. So I guess some people don't feel the need to include this in collections for some reason. I don't know why that makes sense, but yeah, there's this one play that's not in the collection, but which I also want to be able to read because it's some more Shakespeare. So yeah, and for whatever reason, the copy of this when it came, there was several groups of pages where they weren't cut off properly in the way that they're supposed to be lined up. So I actually had to go through with scissors to cut off some of them to make sure that all of the pages would be able to separate properly. I'm not too upset about it. It's not like this was a super nice edition or anything. This was like $7. So I just picked it up just so that I could have it. And now for number 9 on the list of items that I obtained. This is a relatively based body of work. Even when compared to Shakespeare, I'd say it's more so. At least somebody in Discord that I'm in would say so. This item is The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Now I have all 6 volumes in this edition. I'm just looking at the first 3 for now. I remember seeing a great set of this book or series or however you want to define it in my library several years ago when I was pretty young and still going to the library pretty frequently. And every single time I looked at it, I was like, I want to read that. But at the time, being like 14 years old or something like that, I decided that it was probably a little bit too much for me at the time. So I never actually picked it up then. And I didn't get that specific type of set, obviously, because I got the Everyman's Library version rather than that. I think it might be a leather bound edition that the library had. I don't know for sure, but I did get the set, which seems like it'll be real nice to work with and just kind of read through. It's just kind of the thing to have. I love history. I mentioned earlier that ancient history and stuff like that is totally my cup of tea. And history of ancient civilizations, all that stuff I just love. So to have 6 volumes of history for one of those ancient civilizations, even though it goes through surprisingly modern times, will be awesome for me. Like the giddy middle schooler is coming out and being big time when I see this edition of the book on my shelf. And now, time to look at the final item that I obtained this month, and that is technically one book, but it's split into 6 bindings, 7 volumes. That is In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust, for potentially the longest book ever, or one of the longest book ever in that regard, if you count the 6 to 7 volumes of this one body of work as one book, as some people do. Either way, this is kind of like one of those pipe dream goals for me to be able to read at some point in my life. I'm sure I'll have to read and then probably even reread basically the entire thing at least once in order to be able to get the value out of it that I'm hoping to be able to get out of it. It's based off of all the people that, like, I've seen reviews, like, I've read tons of reviews for this work, and out of all the people who've read it, they've said, like, it was something that they were skeptical about, that they thought it was kind of pointless, but then by the time they got to the end, they realized that at some point it clicked and they were like, well, this is a masterpiece, and a lot of them reread it, and some of them even reread it basically immediately, and I'm like, huh. For me, I wonder if I'm going to have a similar reaction to that. I have no clue. But I will say that I do want to be a little bit older when I do attempt to read In Search of Lost Time, because it's quite a hefty story that's more about the themes and the philosophical ideas of like looking back at life and stuff like that, as opposed to being an actual plot. So it's going to be quite a tough one as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, I do want to be a little bit older when I attempt this. I'm sure there's some stuff that I could get out of it now in my 20s. I'm 20 years old right now. I'll soon be 21, but surely not nearly as much value as I could get out of this if I read it in my 30s or 40s, maybe even 50s, depending on how things go. It will still be a nice thing to have on my shelves, though, especially for the deal I got for it. And that's now the end of this book haul. Who knows, maybe somebody gifted me something over the last few days of this month, because I'm recording this on the 26th, so almost a week before the end of the month, but I'm actually getting my wisdom teeth taken out tomorrow as of the time that I'm recording this, and I wanted to get some of these videos recorded early just in case I don't actually have the ability or the wherewithal to be able to speak long enough to record them, say this weekend when I might be recovered, I might not be, but I wanted to get some of this done before it becomes a time contingency type of thing. If anybody did happen to gift me something over the last few days, which, if so, thank you, that stuff will be in the next video. I don't anticipate seeing anything like that, but who knows? I got surprised with both of these gifts that I got this month. Either way, I recommend that you go check out this month's State of Affairs video, which I guess came out like a week and a half ago or something like that, so that you have an idea of some of the things that are going on and stuff that's happening on the channel and with the website, because this one actually has a few things that I wanted to talk about that I'm not going to mention anywhere else on the channel, pretty much. Anyways, go check out seasonalproductions.com, just like I say in every video, and like I said, check out the State of Affairs. That will be right there at the top of the homepage if you're interested. I'll see you guys all on Monday with another episode of The Book Bench.